So the topic tonight is enterprise analysis. How many people in the room, in addition to having project management responsibilities, also have some sort of business analysis duties or responsibilities? BAs or people in your organization that are, okay, so you may be familiar with the IIBA, International Institute of Business Analysis, similar to PMI except from a BA perspective. So I should do my sound check. Can you guys, am I projecting okay? Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, that's usually not been an issue. Okay, so in the world of business analysis, there's this concept called enterprise analysis. They have knowledge areas just as PMI does. One of those knowledge areas is enterprise analysis. We're not covering all of that. I can spend days talking about that, and I think you guys didn't bring your overnight goods, so we're not going to stay all night and talk about that. But what I do want to do is to pick a piece of that and talk about the strategic alignment portion of enterprise analysis and talk about how that relates back to our projects, if you will. So I've got a little bit of a continuum here I want to get your take on. You've got this end of the spectrum. We're talking about, you're part of the strategic planning process. At the far right-hand side of the spectrum, you get the project after it's already been tagged and you've been named the project manager. So just by a show of hands, how many of you get involved in the project selection process somewhere over here? All right, so here's the project, go make it successful, right? Right, how many of you are fortunate enough, or maybe fortunate is not the word I'll use right now, how many of you get involved way over on the far left-hand side, part of the project or the strategic planning process? All right, and then the rest of the hands are either still eating or you're somewhere in between, right? Okay, so yeah, all right, we've got the going into still eating. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this right-hand side. What are the benefits of getting involved over here at the far right-hand side? Who's got an observation for me? Why it's good to be involved when the project's, somebody's done all that stuff and they just hand me the project to go do.
You understand more why decisions were made in the beginning.
Okay, maybe. He said you understand more about why decisions were made. How many of you get the why along with the here's the what? Okay, I got a couple that are going, maybe not so much. But you may, when you get the project, that may happen. Anybody else, what happens when you just get the project assigned to you? What's the benefit? Yes, sir.
You get the date, and hopefully you get the resources. But you don't have to worry about mixing and matching and whether or not this project is being committed to. There's been a corporate commitment to do the work.
Theoretically, there's some decision that's been made, and you go forth, and you don't have to be a party to that. All you know is that here I got it, and I got a date, and somehow I have to figure out how to deliver on that. All right?
You would think the requirements have been defined already for you.
I'm sorry, what were you drinking? You would think the requirements have already been defined for you. Okay, that remains to be seen, but yes, it could happen, right? It's generally a lot more time efficient for you, right? Because you don't have to sit through all those meetings to get you to that point. All right, how about, let's shift over here to this side. Those of you that are involved upstream, what are the benefits of being involved early on? Yes, ma'am?
You need to lay out the whole project. You're the boss.
You are a part of that process. You're part of deciding which projects are going to get selected and understanding the rationale for that.
You actually understand from the very start the whole process and what that whole project's going to be about.
Gives
You
you a whole
have the
lot.
knowledge.
It gives you a whole lot more information than trying to peck in the dark, doesn't it? Yeah.
You also get to establish expectations and set them with them.
That's a great point. So when you're interactive with them from the beginning, then you have a chance to start to level set some expectations from the get-go. That's a technical term, but I'll try to use it. So to your point, again, we have more information about what's going on.
It minimizes the learning curve.
It does minimize the learning curve, so now you don't have to all of a sudden, they want to know when you've got results, if you've been part of that all throughout. What are the drawbacks to being involved so early on?
You may do some work that you never get to realize.
Okay, we spend a lot of time doing stuff that we might never be a part of downstream. Good, what else?
Well, if it's your baby, it's all resting on you. So why'd you choose this lousy project for?
Yeah, there's a piece of ownership that kicks in early on. If I just get it here, it's not my fault. You just told me to do the project. But if you've involved me up here, then we've got a whole other issue, don't we? Anybody else?
It's time consuming.
Yes, I've got 10,000 other things on my desk to do, and for those of you that have never been part of a strategic planning session, I have facilitated them and been a participant in them, And they can be ugly sometimes. And you know, trying to get your senior leadership, everybody on the same page can be a challenge for us. And meanwhile, you're in there thinking, you know, I could be doing a whole lot of other things. So there are pros and cons to both. What I have found probably as best practices is very often somewhere right here in the middle. So you're part of the process of getting to what are the right projects, you have the ability to provide input into that, and you're not having to wait till the end to find out, okay, that's great, what am I going to do? But you also don't have to spend as much time. There's not an absolute right or wrong answer. I just sort of want to get you thinking about where you fit in as we talk about some of the tools and concepts in this session this evening. For some of you, especially if you live over here, what we're going to talk about, it might be happening upstream from you, and it might not, but at least you'll have some questions to be taken back to your organization. For those of you that are involved further upstream, I hope you'll find some tools that might help you in the process of moving from strategic planning into the project execution. Okay? All right, so things we'll talk about this evening, understanding just what enterprise analysis is, and we'll do that at a pretty high level. We'll talk about two strategy tools that I like to use. One of those is a strategy map. How many of you are familiar with the concept of a strategy map? Okay, got a couple of you, good. That's good. Less hands is better in this case. Now I'll give you something new to think about. The second one is looking at a balanced scorecard. How many of your organizations have balanced scorecards? How many of you love them? Okay, fine. And then we'll talk about how we bring all those together to help us do a better job of establishing the framework for our projects and also those goal or business level requirements. Enterprise analysis discussions would not be complete without a picture of the USS Enterprise for my Trekkies in the room. It is, according to the Open Group Architecture Framework, an enterprise is a collection of organizations that have a common set of goals and or bottom line. So any organization that has a common bottom line would be considered an enterprise. If you have a company that has completely distinctly separate business units that do not roll up together, you probably have 3 separate enterprises in that case. But the key piece of this is that at the enterprise level, we're trying to think up a level so that we're looking at broad cross-functional implications going beyond our silos. In the world of the IIBA, just real quickly, their knowledge areas are depicted on the slide up here. If you think about it, the gray box here is actually the development of the requirements. There's the planning and requirements management. You've got the harvesting of, I like the word elicitation. And then we've got some underlying competencies that go with that. Our focus is going to be, again, on enterprise analysis, understanding the big picture, basically, before we get into eliciting and documenting our business requirements. So what is enterprise analysis? It's really understanding what we're trying to accomplish at an organizational level and taking a look at our current capabilities. So doing an enterprise capability assessment to understand where we want to be in the future versus where we are today, taking a look at that gap analysis, identifying what the best solutions are to help us accomplish those, and then taking those and converting them into the scope statement that will hopefully help us with our project definition and building of our business case for whatever our new solution or projects are going to be. And I assume, by the way, if you have questions, you can try to peg me along the way, but certainly we'll catch them at the end. But if you do have questions, I tend to talk fairly quickly, and I acknowledge that. But if you have questions, let me know, and I'll certainly pause and try to catch us up with that. So I'll pause right now to get any questions. And I'll breathe too. All right, there's a quote by Albert Einstein that I think really relates back to enterprise analysis nicely. If I had 1 hour to save the world, I'd spend the first 55 minutes defining the problem. As we think about project management, projects that fail because of a lack or improper or incomplete project initiation. Same thing happens right here, making sure that we've identified what's the problem before we decide what the solution needs to be. All right, so see if any of these things seem familiar to you at all. So this concept of enterprise analysis, thinking at the big picture level first before we drill down into the details. Confused resources if we don't have enterprise analysis. So why are we doing the project? What's going on? What's my role? What are we trying to accomplish, maybe? Overlapping projects. So you're doing that, I'm doing that, we've got different people working on projects at the same time that have some sort of integration challenges, is the phrase, opportunities is the phrase that my mother always used to use.